All right, let's do another edition of reading the comments. I'm going to try to keep this video a little bit shorter. The last one was like 45 minutes or longer. I want to see maybe if a shorter video is a little bit better for this type of format. Again, as always, please definitely let me know. But let's just start off. This is about the Broncos game. You're talking like you think the field goal was an automatic. The way the field goal kicker was kicking, it was quite the opposite. Lousy second half play calling cost them a game, and they should have won. I would fire the coach and grab the Bills' ex-coach and hire the field goal kicker and bring, or even better than this clown who cost them points. Okay. So I guess apparently he wants to fire Sean Payton, which automatically already disqualifies that comment entirely. As well as you're talking like you think the field goal was automatic. Well, they were at the 13-yard line. So yes, I expect, so does everyone else and their mother expect the field goal kicker for the Broncos to be able to make that kick. Yes, it could have been blocked. Yes, it could have been wide. Yes, it could have been a fumbled snap. You're absolutely right. That's absolutely possible. The field conditions were perfect. There was no problems at that point. You're expecting your kicker to make it. If you can't expect that, well, then you can't manage a game at all. So that's the whole comment doesn't really make sense. I'll be honest with you. Patriots O-line and weapons are still subpar. That team should only get better. Bills are in trouble. Okay, I guess that's just about. Oh, that's a Chiefs fan. That's Chiefs fans. That's the Chiefs fan 15. So it makes sense. Makes sense. He's hoping the Bills continue to be bad. Because he's a Chiefs fan. But also, the better the Patriots are, harder it is for the Chiefs. Just saying. Bo Nix wins that game with grit and guts alone. Forget all the other stuff. He would have simply willed them to victory, just like he did numerous times this year. Yeah, I just think that a Bo Nix is going to clearly be more resilient in those moments, in just the ups and downs of a game, let alone the weather conditions as well. Like Drake May showed. Drake May showed his resiliency. Again, it was not a perfect game by Drake. Obviously, the stats were, essentially non-existent, but he did show his resiliency. He did show why he is the starting quarterback in the NFL, why he is an up-and-coming star in the NFL. And you just have to imagine that if given the opportunity, Bo Nix would have been able to rise to the occasion as well. And who knows what happens at the end of the day if Bo Nix ends up playing in that game, because maybe then it starts to put more pressure on both sides. Now Drake May has to do more. The Patriots feel like they have to do more. Then who knows at that point? But to think that we would have just gotten a similar outcome if Bo Nix was in the lineup versus when he was out, it just makes no sense. I can't wrap my head around that take. I really don't. The whole thing when people talk about when they talk about no excuses with injuries, no excuses, next man up, and I'm always like, why do you think we pay certain players like $150 million, $100 million? Like, why do you think stars and great players matter? They're not interchangeable. That's for a running back. That's for a tight end. That's for a wide receiver. That's for a corner. That's for a left tackle. You don't think it's like that for a quarterback? Come on, man. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Just doesn't make sense. Someone else said, this is not all Broncos comments, but Broncos are obviously they're in the comment section right now. But I'm glad we lost. I did not want to deal with the media fall out if Stidham did win. Media would have went full attack mode on Bo. It's true. The narrative would have eventually been Bo is a system quarterback. Stidham gives the Broncos a better chance to win, etc., etc. Yeah. Plus, a win without Bo at this point would have felt empty to me. I get it. I think you still want to win regardless. And I trust Bo Nix's ability to be able to navigate that situation. So does Sean Payne. And let the people keep doubting. That's what makes it fun. Ooh, I think now we're talking about Jacksonville Jaguars. Nick has really been the only one outside of the city of Jacksonville that believes in him. The talent that has always been there. but we haven't got the coach to get the best out of him until this year. I do believe something is different in him between the ears, which has unleashed his true ceiling. Next year, I do believe next year he will be in the top 3 MVP. Yeah, listen, Nick has definitely believed in Trevor tremendously, and that was always my go-to example. Now it's my go-to example when I'm referring to a go-to example of something that me and Nick have agreed on. Both have the same view about Trevor Lawrence and the potential of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I don't think that's something that the NFL world has really reconciled with quite yet, of what it means to add another potential great team into the fold, not only just in the NFL, but of course more immediately to the AFC, and what that does from a seeding perspective. Because if the Jags were still a mess and the Chargers were still a mess, it's like a team like the Chiefs could have found their way into the playoffs, right? This even just this year, obviously before Mahomes gets injured, and like without that, it's just a margin of error, a situation where the Bills could have found themselves at a higher seed. It has such a massive effect all throughout the NFL that when you just now add in an additional team, but will be interesting because you could add in an additional team, but maybe another team falls out, right? Maybe the Texans fall out, maybe the Bills fall out, the Ravens or the Chiefs. Like it's hard to predict. Just one thing that we do know is nothing lasts forever. Seahawks just straight owned the Rams, and I am a Rams fan. I never believed in Shula and all the hype he's been getting. I feel for the team that snags. Oh, okay. I feel for the dumb team that snags him from the Rams. Laugh out loud. The Rams coaching staff was trying to ride Stafford's arm, but he can't win them all. He made some bad throws, to be honest, and his third downs were horrendous. Still love Stafford, but Hawks deserve that win more. The Rams, and it pains me to say that, laugh aloud, Hawks will destroy the Pats. Yeah, listen, that's a Rams fan who's clearly a little bummed and clearly reeling. I don't know about they owned the Rams. I think it was a great game. It was a shootout game. You could say that the Rams offense owned the Seahawks defense. I mean, nobody could stop anyone. It was just one of those games where everybody was just letting it rip, and both offensive coaches were setting their quarterbacks up to succeed. I don't know if I could say that Stafford was horrendous on those downs. I mean, and listen, he did make some bad throws. He also made some absolutely brilliant throws. I think it was to Puka. The one throw that was really just so perfectly layered that the Seahawks player, I don't forget who it was, he was like reaching out, and he just missed it. I mean, like, guys, that throw is insane. Like that, like a throw like that is it's so unbelievable that a throw like that will never get as much attention as like some sort of like scramble for 5 seconds and just chucking it down the field. Like that throw is just so unbelievable. And so I'm not going to look at that game and just say that, oh, Stafford just couldn't win this game for the Rams because he can't win them all. That's just, to me, that is just not the take. The weaknesses of the season bit the Rams, special teams and defensive backfield. Those need to improve. Yeah, it is always kind of interesting because anytime you don't win, you're always like, well, it's because of this thing, right? Well, this is what finally got us. Last year with the Chiefs, it was with the O-line. With the Rams, the claim is the O-line. This year, now with the Rams, it's with their special teams and their defensive backfield. With the Eagles, it was their coaching, and so it is weird. Because anytime you just don't win it all, you're like, well, it's because of this thing. And it's like, how many times does everybody have it all and then you still just lose? Like, you can always kind of circle something that held you back, that just wasn't quite good enough. And that's always the tough thing to try to make sense of. Because if you have everything perfect, well, then, yeah, sure, then I guess you're just always going to win. Right? Like, then you're just going to find a way to win essentially every single game. Then why would you ever realistically come up short? If you come up short in a game, it's got to be because your quarterback is just never as consistent as you need him to be in those big games, or they always struggle to run the ball in the fourth quarter, whatever it may be. The defense always gets too conservative, and that bit them in this game, and so you can always point to something. And this is what this is what I said to Rams fans, I guess yesterday, where I was just kind of like, when they were saying, oh, like, we got to blame special teams, or we got to blame this, we got to blame that. And it's just like, I don't know. Are you expecting to have like everything, right? Like, are you expecting to have just 8 Pro Bowlers and All Pros on both sides of the ball, just all around? Like, it's just not going. It's just not going to happen. And yes, you would love your defense to be better, but here's the reality: the Seahawks defense was elite and special throughout the whole course of the season. They were not a big, massive reason why the Seahawks won this game. Their offense rose to the occasion. And the Rams could have won this game if their offense was just slightly better, 3% better, and they maybe win that game. And they weren't. So I think it's one of those things where you just kind of look at whatever focal point you want to focus on. That's just kind of what happens in a game like this. Oh, this guy's just making fun of me. What are we supposed to do with this information? Better luck next year. Sure. Josh Allen blew that game. No excuses. Pretty simple. Move on. The only reason he gets runs is after the play breaks down and he weighs more than the guys tackling him by 50 pounds. Big deal. He runs like a pontoon boat. He's Big Ben 2.0. Imagine downplaying what Josh Allen does with his legs. And because he's a big quarterback, big deal. What? Right. Big deal. He's just bigger and stronger and faster than everyone else. Okay, buddy. Geno Smith secured the first pick in the draft and propelled the Seahawks to the Super Bowl just by changing teams. Yep, that is pretty wild. Coward seems to forget that he is living in the age of the internet, where his past statements can be played back. It was only a few months ago that Coward was pushing McCarthy as head coaching team should hire when the Cowboys let him go. Yes, okay, I'm going to focus on the comment itself and not towards Colin Cowherd. Everyone changes their minds. But, to be fair, I do remember Colin last year or the year before. I forget when. I don't know if I was making videos yet or anything like that. But he did compare Harbaugh and McCarthy. And he talked about that it's just an issue of marketing. That McCarthy actually is a really good coach, and him and Harbaugh pretty much have similar playoff record. And again, this has kind of changed a little bit since he did that, so I don't know exactly how it's aged, but it's not as far off as you would think. And yet Harbaugh, it's an unbelievable hire, and he got 5 years, $100 million or whatever the heck it was with New York, and he's going to usher in a new era for New York, and it's an unbelievable hire, and it's the best decision that the Giants have made, in forever, and kumbaya, let's go. And now with Mike McCarthy, it's bad. And actually, Colin was making an argument that the Chicago Bears should hire Mike McCarthy. And I talked about it because I was like, yeah, I see the value in it because he's a stabilizing factor. And I didn't know if Ben Johnson was going to be available, to be clear. I did say I want Mike McCarthy over Pete Carroll. And that would have definitely aged pretty good if they had to pick between the two of them. But I saw value in Pete Carroll, though, to be fair. I see value in bringing an actual seasoned veteran coach who knows how to run a team. We talk about the X's and O's and the play calling and timeout management, but also a coach needs to know how to run a team. He needs to know how to manage. He needs to know how to delegate responsibilities to various players, let alone, of course, the coaching staff. Like, you need to be able to know how to deal with all of that. And that is something that Mike McCarthy does know how to do. So when you do bring in a Mike McCarthy, you are getting that benefit. And it absolutely is a benefit. It's why we see a lot of coordinators fail. Because that's not maybe what they're equipped to do. And just being able to handle the media. I mean, it's very easy to say, like, oh, these guys can just do what they need to do. And it's just like having to now talk to the media, deal with, a different level of attention on you. Like, it's a real experience. It's a real experience that, like, you have to factor in. I make these videos. If overnight suddenly, like, everyone just knew who I was, and I was walking down the street, and people were like, "Oh, I know you. You're on YouTube. You got 5 million subscribers," and I'm like, all of a sudden, like, Mr. Overnight Celebrity. Yeah, man, that's gonna change how I view this channel. It's gonna change how I make my takes. It's gonna stress me out like crazy. If every video I made had 200,000 views and 1 million comments, I would have so much stress and angst because I would want to be as accurate as I possibly can. I already want that. But if I now felt the magnification of 1,000,000, it would haunt me. Again, it still bugs me to a big degree, thinking that I might say something that is not accurate. And I'm just like, no, I gotta be accurate. Again, even if my opinion is wrong, fine, but I still want to be accurate with what I'm talking about. And if like all of a sudden we magnified this community by like 1,000,000 plus and I was just getting views through the roof, I mean, I'd feel it every second of every single day. And so, someone like a Mike McCarthy can handle with the magnification of being a head coach. And so there's a significant benefit to that, undeniably from my viewpoint. And so I do get where this comment is coming from. Because they can't seem to make up their minds. And also, I do remember Colin talking about Mike McCarthy, that he chose to leave Dallas because he knew that leaving Dallas was good, that he was actually good with Dallas, and et cetera, et cetera. So, but, listen, I think Mike McCarthy is one of those coaches and one of the takes that you have where 1 minute you're like, I think he's actually a really great coach. Yeah, he's actually really great. And then like a couple of days later, you're like, he's not that good. Like I just think it's one of those types of takes where you float back and forth on. I think it's okay to sometimes have those types of takes. I probably have them with certain players, teams, quarterbacks, coaches, where like, I don't know, depending on the day, I'm like, you know what, actually, I actually do think he's a really good quarterback and you can win a lot of games. And then like literally the next day, I'm like, nah, I don't know. Probably not. And I just think you don't always have, it's not always a matter of flip-flopping. I just think sometimes you just don't always have this solidified 100% take and you're sticking to it. Minds change depending on the day, depending on the hour. That was something that I realized when I first started making videos. I'll talk about, the Bills or something at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then 4 hours later, I'm having a Bills take, and I'm like, I don't know if I agree with what I just said earlier in the morning. I'm like, maybe I feel a different way now. Like, just the way it goes. Just the way it goes. Patriots were tactical with the white camouflage uniforms. That is true. They were phased. They had to take off the numbers from when they superimposed them on the screen because the Patriots players were literally flashing in and out of existence like it was Back to the Future. I mean, like it was crazy. This guy now also said something pretty offensive, so I'm gonna have to remove that. Hot take, I feel like James Cook is responsible for the loss more than Josh. If he doesn't fumble that ball, the Bills probably run them over. But that fumble changed everything and made Allen play more reckless. Well, listen, the one guy that Josh Allen is supposed to be able to depend on in that game literally fumbled the ball where they would have at least scored a field goal. So yeah, and Josh Allen was able to overcome any of his mistakes. And I really only credit 2 turnovers to Josh Allen. Just saying. So yeah, I don't wholeheartedly disagree with the take. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not planting my flag and saying he did it. I see it as a collective loss by the Bills as a whole. But the one guy that's supposed to also be able to rise to the occasion and stand by Josh, he did the one thing you just be like, please don't do. And he fumbled. This guy said it's the ultimate team game is football, which is pretty funny because he always yells at me with my Patrick Mahomes takes, and now he wants to talk about it being an ultimate team game. Okay, we'll let it go. I finally agree with Nick. They should have QB sneaked instead of whatever they were trying to do there. Yeah. I think pretty much the vast majority believe that Sean Payton should have just kicked the field goal or at least done some sort of quarterback sneak. And that's where I was saying, if you're going to do those types of plays, at that point, I'm betting on my O-line. I'm banking on my O-line. I'm saying to my O-line, get me that first down. Win at the line of scrimmage. Win that down. That's what I'm banking on. Julian, be quiet, please. You never disproven my points or anyone else. Stop embarrassing yourself about Josh Allen. Pretty nice comment. I mean, not much to say there. What do you want me to say about that? This is the first time I agree with Nick, but it's an easy take on the 4th and 1. Everyone with a brain would have taken 3 points in that situation, being up by 7 at the beginning of the second quarter. Yeah, the big thing is, and then I'll leave that. I'll try to not keep reading those comments. But the big thing is that you get to go up by 10, and it's different. It's one thing if they were up by 3 and you kick that field goal. Now it's still a 6-point game, so it's a touchdown is still within reach to now even be losing the game. But you have the chance to go up 2 scores, which makes it even more indefensible, honestly. This is about the Rams. Many things went wrong. I even lost count. I don't know about it. I don't think that was a many things went wrong type of game. I really, really don't. That play was equivalent of the James Cook fumble as far as the momentum killer. A horrible point swing and the chance to stick the knife. Oh yeah, about the Broncos. Yeah, it was. Longtime Seahawks fan. I did not, in all caps, feel that Sam outplayed Matthew in this game. They were both brilliant. It was a team victory for the Hawks, to no fault of Matthew, whom we deeply respect. Then someone else replied, your feelings don't change the facts. I agree. I do not think that was a game that that it was about just Sam outplaying Matthew Stafford. I do think it was just 2 quarterbacks being great. And that's why I always take issue when people say, oh, Patrick Mahomes outplayed Josh Allen, and they even reference that 13-second game, which is just objective. That's just legitimately nonsense and statistical nonsense as well. And I just do not feel that this game at the end of the day was just simply Sam Darnold outplaying Matthew Stafford. And again, that's coming from someone who's had to not downplay Matthew Stafford through the course of the season, but add important context, I felt, and had to push the Sam Darnold greatness narratives as much as I could. And this would be a perfect example to really just emphasize that, see, Sam outplayed, Stafford. And I that's honestly just not how I saw it. I saw 2 great quarterbacks just being awesome and balling, and you're just never going to be perfect throughout the course. You're just not going to be perfect throughout the course of the game. Of course, Sam is going to miss a couple throws. Of course, Stafford is going to miss a couple throws. Sometimes you really pay the consequences for it, and sometimes you don't. It's a tricky thing when trying to evaluate how good or not good someone was in a game. Steelers used to be a forward-thinking team. Tomlin was a total surprise hire. Art, too, is running the franchise into the ground. Steelers used to be a team that went 40 years without playing a playoff game also. Yeah. I don't know, man. The other thing is I just don't know who the Steelers could hire. I think sometimes it's really easy. I don't even need these headphones in. I think it's really easy to say to other teams, this is who they should or not hire. This is who they should or shouldn't hire. And when I'm talking about other teams that I think can truly pretty much make any offer they want and get who they want, like maybe a team at the level of who's also hiring someone like the Eagles, the Rams, the Bills or Ravens. You got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Like, I don't know how many, Ben Johnson was available. Is Ben Johnson signing up to go be hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers? Especially if the Buffalo Bills job is available, the Chicago Bears job is available, the Baltimore Ravens job. So I think it's hard when you don't really know who is available. Who can you realistically get? And I had said this in my Steelers video where I was like, it's seemingly one of the best hires you could go out there is like a Clint Kubiak or maybe a Jesse Minter or something. And it's just like, I don't know if you can hire them. For all I know, they were just like, nah. Like maybe they went to an interview. Maybe they don't. Like maybe they're just like, nah, no. We're going to be going somewhere else. And if that's the case, maybe Mike McCarthy was legitimately the best move to make. So, but I think that's always a little bit difficult for us to really have that information. I mean, listen, this year, more than anything, I feel as though we're hearing actually a lot from from these potential coaches where we hear reportedly Brian Daboll doesn't want this job, wants that job, so-and-so pulled his name out of consideration. Like, I don't remember that happening as much as we have in years past. I really don't. So I feel like we're getting more information on the ground of like, Mike McDaniel's really only interested in a head coaching job or being the OC for the chart. Like, I just don't feel as though we got that level of information before. So I don't know. Bro, shut your yapping. Oh, thanks, buddy. That's so kind of you. This is a long comment. Let's see what this is saying. I am a Chargers fan, and I remember several years ago, Brandon Staley blew about 6 games, I would say, going for it on 4th down. Sounds about right. I think with all those games, we lost by 3 points. I could be misremembering. Well, listen, I don't know if it was exactly 3 points, and I don't know if it was exactly 6 games, but he absolutely made devastating decisions, especially against the Raiders in that one game that would have led them to, I think, the playoffs or whatever the repercussions were for that game. It was important. But as Bruce said, it's like a lot of these coaches feel like 3 points are not valuable. Every point is valuable. Me and several friends have been talking about this very same thing in many games. Last week, the Bears bypassed the field goal attempt. Absolutely. We talked about that. If they had attempted and made one of those, they would have beat the Rams by 3 points. The last one I give them a pass on because the game was almost over and the Rams were winning by 3 points. I could understand that one. But early on in the game, it's exactly what this panel mentioned. You're going against Patrick Mahomes, you got to get touchdowns. You're going against the Rams, you got to get touchdowns. And now it's like you're going against anybody, you got to get touchdowns. Well, the Bears were going up against the Rams, and the field goals would have been suffice. So, early in the game, take the points as they come. And then by the end of the games, you do whatever you have to do to win. But don't bypass points early in the game because you want to stockpile touchdowns. Also, we have seen even from the Rams, the Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, those first downs are not guaranteed. And quite often you lose these games by 3 points or less. These coaches are losing these games with these calls. Yeah, so I think it's a great comment. But I think ultimately one of the things is there has to be actually a mathematical difference for going for it early on in the game compared to going for it late in the game because you have more information now. If you're going for it later in the game, you have a closer idea of, one, how the game's been going, how your offense has been playing, how your defense has been playing. So that's already now more information, let alone you have a better idea of how many more possessions are you going to get. You know that there's 6 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. You're going to have an understanding of like, we'll probably get maybe one more possession or something, right? Like you have some sort of idea, a much better idea there, and what you need. So you could make the argument that you do not want to be super aggressive and get the points early or go for it as much on early early in the game, which I think mathematically and just situationally makes a lot of sense. But I think even if you're going against Patrick Mahomes, there's this notion, like, no matter who you're playing, no matter what the situation is, it still can be incredibly beneficial to kick these field goals. And we've seen it so many times where even, randomly throughout the course of a game, someone misses an extra point, and now the score is at this weird lopsided thing where, like, you're down by 4 or you're up by 2. Now a field goal can win the game instead of just tie the game. Right? We see so many of these bizarre things that happen throughout the course of the game, and I just think that ultimately it's not even just about these coaches being aggressive, but you have to understand what team you have. How great are you in these moments? How much can you rely on your offense, your quarterback, your O-line, whatever it may be? Like what like, is that your true strength? Don't just do it because that's what the analytics say, or that's what you believe the philosophy should be in. So I do think, again, I love that we get to live in an NFL world where these guys are going for it so much more on 4th down, and in a weird way, like, I get, especially, like, I like when we're seeing it, like a team's at the 40 or something and they're going for it because you're like, am I going to do a really long field goal in kind of like tricky conditions, or is it better? Do we want to try to punt and pin them back, or do we trust our defense and we're going to go for it? It's 4th and 3. Like, those moments are exciting. Those moments are awesome. And when the team you're rooting for makes it, it's super exciting. And it's stressful watching it, right? You're stressed out. You're like, are they just going to try to get them off sides? I don't know. Then they call hike, and for a second you're like, oh my gosh, is anyone open? And then for a second, when you see your quarterback get flushed out of the pocket, you're like, oh my gosh, is this getting blown up? right? And then if you're on defense, you're like, let's go. Like, get him out, get him out. Yep, threw it away. That's our ball, baby. Let's go. Like, those are exciting moments that for much of football, like, we just didn't have. And truthfully, the better and better field goal kickers get, we're going to lose those moments because it'll be more of a no-brainer to just kick a long 60-yard field goal. Seriously, like, and then we're going to get into a different weird decision-making aspect. And we even saw that haunt some teams a little bit. The Cowboys for sure as well, because they're like, we can keep kicking these deep field goals. And like, yeah, when you make them, it's awesome. When you miss them, it's a problem as well, just like it is going for it on fourth down. So it's going to be interesting. Football is always evolving, which makes it pretty great. There is a force field of awesome around New England that makes guys who think they're smarter than the room overthink. And that leads to self-destruction. It's as part of the culture as do your job. It happens over and over. Such is the mystique. There is such a force field of awesome around New England that makes guys who think they're smarter than the room overthink. And, okay, we'll see. I'm so fascinated to see how this Super Bowl unfolds. Because I got some pretty strong thoughts on it that I'm not going to just... I still want to think about it and marinate and figure out exactly what I want to say and how I want to say it, if I want to say it, with regards to the Super Bowl, especially because we got 2 weeks until the Super Bowl. It's always tricky talking about it because we just got two teams. And I feel like over these last few years, it made a little bit more sense because the Eagles and the Chiefs and the 49ers, those were the bulk. There's so much energy behind those franchises. And there's so much intensity. With the Eagles, it was Jalen Hurts, and the Chiefs, it was the two best teams in the NFL. Both one seeds, I believe. Jalen was the MVP candidate, and it was before anybody was really doubting Jalen at that point. People just actually legitimately believed in him, honestly, at that point. And obviously, Mahomes, a ton of momentum and excitement there. And then the whole Andy Reid going up against the Eagles, the Kelseys and all of that great fun stuff. And then in 23, you had the 49ers and Brock Purdy, and there was some doubt there, but still excitement and a rematch between the 49ers and the Chiefs again. And there was just a lot of intensity there. The 49ers were this high-powered team, Shanahan, et cetera, et cetera. The Chiefs are being the Chiefs. And then now the next year, you have the Eagles and the Chiefs again. Rematch, three-peat, revenge, Jalen Hurts, doubt, Saquon Barkley, right? Like, there's so much energy here. There's a lot less energy. We can try to pretend that the Patriots or Drake may have it because of the whole, turnaround thing and how everyone hated the Patriots and this, that. I'm just telling you, they're not moving the needle anywhere close to what the Eagles and the Chiefs have. It's honestly just not even close. It's really, really not. That's just my experience. So I'm just curious how the conversations over these next couple of weeks are going to unfold. Because there definitely seems like a lot less intensity, especially even just last year. People were really rooting against the Chiefs, against the Eagles. There was just, and then obviously you have everyone, lots of people rooting for them. Just definitely feels a little bit more lukewarm so far. And yeah, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting matchup, that's for sure. Patriots will get destroyed in the Super Bowl. Right on cue. If you're so sure about that, why not put everything you own then? No, seriously, though. If without a doubt they win, go ahead and do it, bro. Oh, wait, this is sports. The team that's supposed to win loses. The underdogs pull it off. It's why you watch and everyone else. Any given Sunday, man. I agree. Any given Sunday. I definitely do agree. Devontae got his TO moment right there and probably never going to the Super Bowl. Thanks, Wilds, to tell the absolute truth. Padford got fantasy numbers, unreal. But when he was time to be the real MVP, he did what? Nothing twice because McVay did not draw people wide open and he cannot move more than a yard forward. Drake May is about winning, not stats. Okay, so I gather he's most likely a Drake May fan, especially since he's praising Wilds now, which, seems like we're having a Kansas City Chiefs, Mahomes, Nick type of fan connection there that we're going to now start to see with the New England Patriots. Looking forward to that one. Listen, I do think some of Stafford's stats were juiced up. I really, really do. I've talked about that all season long, but I still think Stafford is elite, and I do not think that Stafford was just simply not the real MVP, and that's why they lost. I just don't get that take whatsoever. Muffs punt and having to go for it on 4th and 1 versus field goal is the main difference. I thought it was going to be 50-50 who wins it, and it basically was. Media just needs something to get in the weeds for TV. The trolling for Josh Allen. The trolling Josh Allen for crying is absolutely unfair. I'll die on that hill with you in that regard. However, he's not being unfairly blamed for the Broncos game. That was not a good game for Josh Allen, and I say that as a stan of his. I love the guy, but he was not good in that ball game. Now, to be fair, on the other side, he's not the only guy who has gone through this. I just find it hilarious that all these Mahomes fans who must have forgot that Mahomes has played terrible in 3 playoff games and wasn't good this season either before his injury and was going to miss the playoffs before then anyway, are the main ones to be out here coming out of the woods kicking down Josh Allen as soon as he was down and out. LOL. As I told Sean, who's a big KC fan, recently, I found that to be pretty gross. Anything short of winning the Super Bowl was going to get that from Mahomes fans, acting like Mahomes has never lost playoff games and or played badly. And then someone else replied, he won 3 Super Bowls, my guy, and 2 MVPs, 3 Super Bowl MVPs. What are we talking about here? Like, when do the shots at Mahomes and the bashing end? He's a legend. I'm just saying that his fans are doing too much sometimes. Mahomes has literally only played poorly in 1.5 playoff games against much tougher opponents than the Broncos. Also never lost with a 100-yard rusher. Okay, now they're just all making stuff up. And his guy said, yeah, this guy's username is essentially a Chiefs name. Yeah. I don't know, man. I just wonder, when I see something like that at this point, I wonder who's the next duo that people are obsessed comparing with. Like, what's really carried us over these last, 5-6 years really has been so heavily the conversations of Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen. That has been such heavy, endless conversations. And no one saw that coming, right? When those guys entered the league, like who was getting ready to compare Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe? Like that was no one was like set up for that. No one was like, this is what it's going to be. And I'm just so fascinated. Like, is it going to be this heated back and forth between Drake May and Bo Nix and Caleb Williams? Like, what's it going to be? Like, and will it get to this level of intensity where it's endless? Where it's just no matter what anyone does, these fans just can't wait to dunk. You know, do Bo Nix and Denver Broncos get to face the Patriots again in the playoffs next season? And now the Broncos win and they get to say, see, that's what happens when we actually have our quarterback, right? Like, it's just so fascinating. And does it make it better that so many people believe, myself included, that Josh Allen is better than a Patrick Mahomes, even though a Patrick Mahomes has won multiple Super Bowls and Josh Allen hasn't? It's like, does that add to it, right? Like if Bo Nix wins a couple Super Bowls, or Drake May wins a couple Super Bowls, but so many people believe that Caleb Williams is better, but he hasn't got over the hump yet. Like, does that add to it? Does that add to it? If Lamar Jackson had a Super Bowl, Josh Allen had a Super Bowl, Joe Burrow had a Super Bowl, and Patrick Mahomes had 2 Super Bowls or something, like, would we get the same level of intensity if it was a little bit more evenly distributed? I don't know. This is why I refuse to say Stafford is the MVP over Drake. Look at his weapons. There's no way Drake doesn't deserve it more. It's wild how Stafford gets praised so hard when they all but ignored him for a decade. If Stafford was great, wouldn't that make them talk about him in Detroit? Yeah, the narrative this year has been so wildly fabricated. Yeah, I don't think it's been fabricated, but it has definitely been juiced up big time. Big time, big time, big time. And it is really interesting because essentially only Matthew Stafford and Patrick Mahomes are really the only 2 quarterbacks in recent memory who have been able to put up awesome numbers and they not knock them for having great offensive weapons. whether it's Tyreek, whether it's Travis, whether it's Andy, right? Also for coaching as well. But we consistently see other quarterbacks get that knock. Whether it was Tua Tagovailoa, whether it was Jared Goff, whether it's Jalen Hurts, whether it's Brock Purdy, we've seen it again and again and again, except for Patrick Mahomes and now this year, Matthew Stafford. And it's really interesting how a thought or an idea, it just gets so magnified and run with endlessly. And that was always the weird thing about Stafford, because again, and I'll end here because I thought this was going to be a short video, but I like to talk. I like doing these comments. I'll end here that it was weird to me with the automatic endless praise of Matthew Stafford. And it put me in this weird situation where I felt like I had to, not that I had to, but I just wanted to counter a lot of it. And then people started to be like, well, you're just a Stafford hater. And it's just like, no, like I truly like am not. I can see why you think I'm a Mahomes hater, which I also truly am not, but like at least I get why you could think that. But it's like I'm just truly telling the truth about Stafford. And like the whole thing, it felt similar to what they did earlier in the season with Baker Mayfield, where they were trying to all be like, Baker Mayfield's the MVP, he's better than Josh Allen. And it was just like, what are we talking about, right? Like, what are we talking about? Like, what are we saying? And the fact that, like, Stafford never got knocked for, just juicing up the box score against, a handful of bad teams and having Devontae and Puka and Sean McVay. And there was never any nuance in that discussion, ever. And that's what's always really interesting to me, because Drake May, for instance, in the MVP conversation, then everybody wanted to add the context and the nuance. Well, he only did this against teams with a winning record. Look at all the quarterbacks he went up against. And it's like, so you want to have that conversation, but then you don't want to acknowledge Puka Nacua and Devontae and an elite offensive line and Sean McVay. I don't understand. Like, for the longest time, we always knocked a quarterback if they had, truly great players, and if they had an offensive player of the year situation, which Puka is, like, that's always historically hurt you. And for Stafford, none of it. I mean, heck, even in the beginning of the season when Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith and Jigba were just through the roof, nobody was talking about Sam Darnold being the MVP. And in fact, anytime I would make a take and saying, look how elite Sam Darnold is right now, he's a top quarterback in the NFL, etc., they said, yeah, but Jackson Smith and Jigba. And it's like, they got Puka Nacua and Devontae. What are we talking about here? Like, what are we talking about? And so many of those red zone touchdowns are like Sean McVay, Devontae specials. These are really strategic, schemed throws here. Which, again, Stafford's doing his part, don't get me wrong, but it's just, at that point, it almost feels similar to the way how people want to take away touchdowns from a Josh Allen or a Jalen Hurts because they're run it in from the 2-yard line. It's like, well, you know what? Then you got to take away a whole bunch of these scheme touchdown throws as well to Devontae in the red zone. Just saying. So it was a weird thing that I witnessed, that I felt we were witnessing this season with Stafford, that it's like everybody was just like really double, triple, quadruple downing on this idea that they really wanted him to get MVP, win the Super Bowl MVP, then he retires and everyone gets to say he's a top quarterback in the history of the NFL, Hall of Famer, etc. Like, they were really trying to write that story no matter what. And to me, that really all came to a conclusion when Drake May overtook Stafford in the MVP conversation, especially after Stafford played terribly against the Atlanta Falcons and they lost. And then in the final game of the season, he beat the Cardinals, who essentially want to lose that game. And then Orlovsky, who I respect a ton, is like, MVP race is over. Stafford just solidified it. And it's like, by beating the Arizona Cardinals, what are we talking about, right? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I think we've lost sight on how we should evaluate the MVP. Truthfully, if we're really being honest and we're really looking at it through like who should be worthy of the MVP nod, I do think it should be Drake May over Matthew Stafford. But honestly, I think there's a better argument for Justin Herbert and Christian McCaffrey at this point for being the MVP, considering how much they relied on Christian McCaffrey. The fact that he had to play with multiple quarterbacks throughout the season, like that matters too, guys. The fact that he was top in the NFL, not like top as in number one, but top 5, top 10, whatever the final was, in carries and receptions. I mean, like the ultimate workhorse, no matter who was the quarterback, no matter what situation they put him in. Yeah, that sounds like an MVP to me. And Justin Herbert overcoming all the stuff that he had to deal with. He did not have Puka Nacua. He did not have Devontae. He did not have an elite O-line. He had the opposite. So I wish there was a way to have better conversations around the MVP. But I learned last year that I was like, I'm not a big fan of the MVP conversation. Random people vote. It's all nonsense. You see the bias and the manipulated narratives in the media too much. I'm just like, I really started to kind of check out of it personally. And I also didn't like the idea that I had to figure out who's more of the MVP, Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. And I was like, I don't know, it seems kind of a lose-lose situation here. And then this year, once everyone started to train that Baker Mayfield was the MVP, that's when I really knew. I was like, okay, this is just ridiculous. Like, this is truly ridiculous. Like, I don't even know what we're talking about here. And then when we started comparing Stafford to Josh Allen, and people wanted to discredit his rushing yards and his rushing touchdowns, then I really knew, okay, great, we're now just going to take away literally one of the most important, devastating aspects of Josh Allen's game, because you want to just focus on passing. Like, the conversation just became so absurd to me. So, it just is what it is. Whew! Another 46-minute video in the comments section. Again, as always, please leave more comments. I'm thinking about doing this. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe have it kind of be known that on this video, leave the comments that you want me to read. And then when I now make the next video, I'm just always reading this comment reel. So the people who really want their comments to be read. Or I'm thinking about like leave a comment, but when you leave the comment, write like AMA, or I don't know what I would say, but like a certain phrase or words. So then when I search the comments, I know that that's what it's meant for. That way I'm not just kind of going down the list of random comments, and it can be a little bit more strategic, and then people can ask questions or whatever. I think that's the way I'd like to do it. So since I don't have it fully fleshed out, and I'd like to do these more than once a week, do it more regularly. So I'll just say this. Obviously, this is a long video, so I don't know how many people made it this long. But if you did, and you do want a comment read, leave it on this comment. Leave it on this video, and I guess I'll just try the AMA. And it doesn't have to be an AMA. It doesn't have to be like an Ask Me Anything. Like, it could be whatever comment you want, but just write AMA in all caps, then leave your comment, because then at least I'll be able to more easily find it. But again, to be clear, it doesn't have to be a question. It can be a comment about literally anything, like I was reading today. So we'll try that out, and I'll try to see if that's a good way of going about it. But those are just all my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you a part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.